In the scorching heat of Nevada, 1879, drifter Caleb Holt rode through the vast ochre plains, dust trailing his horse like a spectral shadow. He'd been tracking wild stallions for 3 days straight, no rest, when a faint sob pierced the quiet of the desert breeze. At first, he figured it was his mind playing tricks, the sun's cruel game on solitary wanderers. But then it came again, softer yet urgent. He pulled the reins, eyes sweeping the jagged cliffs, until he spotted movement under a rocky outcrop. There, half covered in sand, lay a young Paiute girl, barely 15, her face ashen, lips parched from dehydration. Caleb slid off his horse, boots sinking into the blistering ground, and crouched beside her. Her breathing was faint, her hands shaking. She tried to speak, but no sound came. Only fear shone in her eyes. He uncorked his canteen and gently pressed it to her lips. She sipped slowly, as if each drop was a blessing from the heavens. Caleb ripped a piece from his shirt and brushed the grit from her face. She tensed at first, wary of his touch, but soon her gaze softened. "Take it easy," he murmured. "You're safe now." He draped her in his tattered jacket and hoisted her onto his horse, guiding them toward the stream cutting through the valley. Every few steps he glanced back, half expecting Paiute trackers to rise from the rocks. Helping a native girl could spell his end. Both sides of this land were bound by mistrust, yet something in him wouldn't let her go. Maybe it was her eyes. Maybe something deeper, a memory he couldn't quite grasp. By sundown, Caleb reached the stream and set up a small camp. He kindled a fire, boiled water, and ground herbs from his saddlebag to tend her wounds. The girl lay quiet, watching him with guarded curiosity. When he offered her a crust of bread, she paused, then took it with unsteady fingers. "You got a name?" he asked gently. She shook her head, her eyes drifting to the stars, searching for someone lost to her. Caleb leaned against a boulder. "Guess I'll call you Sparrow," he said softly. The name brought a faint smile to her lips, and that small gesture told him he'd done something right. As night fell, the desert turned cold. Caleb added wood to the fire and tucked his blanket around her. The flames danced across her face, and for a moment she seemed almost at peace. But then she stirred in her sleep, muttering something in Paiute, sharp words heavy with grief. Caleb didn't understand, but he felt the ache in her voice. He stared at the dark horizon, jaw clenched. The west was haunted by ghosts, men, women, children, trapped in conflicts they didn't choose. He wondered what had left her out here alone. Outlaws? Soldiers? Or something worse? Come dawn, the desert glowed golden and boundless once more. Caleb mounted his horse, Sparrow seated behind him. They followed the stream south toward a trading post. As they rode, she hummed a soft melody, so haunting it made the morning air feel holy. Caleb didn't know its meaning, but it sank into his bones. The land seemed to listen, the breeze carrying her song through the valley like a prayer. And far off, unseen but close, eyes watched from the shadows, eyes heavy with ancient secrets and unspoken vows. The morning sun spilled across the valley, painting the cliffs in crimson light. Caleb Holt stirred the ashes of his fire, eyes scanning the silent desert. Sparrow still slept, curled beneath his jacket. The night had been long, restless. He couldn't shake the sense that someone had been watching. Then he heard it, the faint thud of hooves. His senses sharpened. In moments, a group of Paiute riders emerged from the haze, their faces marked for battle. Caleb rose slowly, hands raised. He had no fight in him, not against them. Sparrow woke with a gasp, clutching his arm in fear. "Stay behind me," he whispered, though he knew his words couldn't stop what was coming. The riders dismounted swiftly, bows taut, rifles glinting in the sun. At their center rode a woman unlike any Caleb had ever seen. Her presence owned the air, tall, proud, with long black hair woven with copper thread and eyes sharp as the desert sky. She glared at him with fire and fury. "Where is my daughter?" she demanded in halting English. Sparrow stepped forward, tears brimming. "Mother!" she cried. The woman, Tala, rushed to her, wrapping her child in trembling arms. Relief flooded her face, but when she turned to Caleb, her expression hardened again. "Why do you have her? Did you take her?" Caleb shook his head. "She was lost. I found her dying in the valley. I only wanted to help." But Tala wasn't listening. Her warriors circled him, murmuring in Paiute. Sparrow, desperate, clung to his arm, refusing to let go. That simple act, her trust, made Tala pause. She looked from her daughter to the man before her, her anger wavering. For a moment, confusion flickered in her eyes. She stepped closer, studying his face with growing disbelief. "Your eyes, your face, you were there?" Caleb frowned, unsure. "What do you mean?" Tala's breath caught, her strength faltering. 17 winters ago, soldiers attacked our camp near Carson. They burned everything. Many died. I was wounded, left for dead." Her eyes glistened. "But one soldier stayed. He hid me, carried me to the stream. He said his name was Caleb." Caleb felt his blood run cold. Memories he'd buried clawed their way up. The night raid, the screams, the flames, and a young Paiute woman bleeding under the stars. He remembered carrying her from the burning camp, hiding her in a cave, sharing stolen rations. He'd defied orders to save her, then deserted the army the next day. For years, he'd tried to forget. "That was you," he said quietly. Tala nodded, tears falling freely. "Yes," she whispered. "And that night, before you left, I was already carrying a child." Caleb's breath hitched. His eyes turned slowly to Sparrow. Her features, her dark hair, her eyes, they mirrored his own. "No, no," he muttered, shaking his head. "That can't be." But deep down, he knew. Sparrow stepped between them, frightened by the sudden silence. "Mother," she asked, "what's wrong?" Tala took her hands and placed them gently in Caleb's. "He is your father," she said in Paiute. Sparrow froze, her eyes wide, searching Caleb's face. "My father," she whispered in broken English. Caleb couldn't speak. The world blurred, the stream, the cliffs, the wind, all fading under the weight of that word. He lived as a wanderer, a man without ties. Now standing before him was the piece of himself he never knew existed. The Paiute warriors lowered their weapons, unsure how to act. Even they felt the moment's power, the meeting of two worlds long at odds. Tala turned away, wiping her tears. "I told her her father was gone," she said bitterly. "It was simpler than saying he was white." Caleb felt guilt twist inside him. "I never knew," he said softly. "If I had—" She cut him off. "Would you have returned to a tribe your people hunted? To a woman your army called an enemy?" Her words hit like arrows. He had no answer. The air grew heavy with silence. Sparrow, caught between them, stepped forward. "No fight," she said, voice trembling. "Grey Wolf saved me. He good." Her innocence broke the tension. Tala looked at her daughter, then at Caleb, her anger softening into something heavier. Acceptance. She sighed deeply. "You saved me once. Now you save her. Maybe the spirits brought you back for a purpose." Caleb nodded slowly, eyes glistening. "Maybe they did." As the sun rose higher, Tala signaled her warriors to stand down. She walked to the stream's edge, staring at her daughter's reflection between them. "She cannot stay with you," she said at last. "Her blood, her spirit, belong to my people." Caleb looked away, pain cutting deep. "I understand," he whispered, "but let me say goodbye." Tala nodded silently. Sparrow threw her arms around him, tears soaking his shirt. "You come back?" she asked. He smiled faintly, brushing her hair. "If the wind guides me home." When they rode away, Caleb stood alone by the stream, watching until they vanished into the horizon. The sound of hooves faded, leaving only the desert's whisper. He sat by the dying fire, heart heavy but strangely full. For the first time, he knew who he was, not just a drifter, but a man tied to the land and people he once called strangers. That night, the stars burned cold and bright above the valley. Caleb looked up and saw her face, the woman he saved, the daughter he found, the life he could never claim. The desert gave him a truth that changed everything. Somewhere beyond the cliffs, his daughter slept safely, and that was enough. He closed his eyes, letting the wind carry her song through the darkness. A song of blood, memory, and forgiveness. And though he'd ride alone again, he knew a part of him would always belong to the Paiute heart of the desert. So what happens when love, kin, and fate collide across two worlds? Stay till the end for the full tale. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more frontier stories.